Hey guys, and welcome to episode 14 of the Blue Sky Lounge. I am your host, Tyler Iantkow. Now, Walt Disney World is notorious for having countless resorts and resort hotel rooms so that their guests can stay and enjoy all the amenities that Walt Disney World has to offer. So today, our guest Paul and I are going to be discussing making a new Marvel-themed resort hotel in Walt Disney World. We'll touch on topics like theming of the resort, what the restaurant, gift shop, and other areas like the pool might look like, and just what other kind of fun things we might be able to do inside a Marvel-themed resort. Please welcome Paul to the show. Alright folks, today we have Paul with us here on the Blue Sky Lounge. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome.
Awesome, very well. Very, very good. Alright, what does Disney mean to you? How do you, like, what about Disney makes you get like that tingly feeling inside?
Sure, I mean, for me, it comes from a long childhood of my grandparents being snowbirds, and we'd go visit them in Florida every year, so we went a bunch. And I don't know, like, for me, it's an ever-evolving thing. Like, ultimately, it just comes down to, like, excellence and the fineness of the details of Disney things, whether it's the movies or the parks or whatever. But it's a great thing that it like brings back childhood memories for me and family memories with my grandparents and my parents. And now that I am a parent, like it's a whole new kind of thing. And having worked there and gotten married there, it's just like a crazy amount of memories that you can tap into. And just like, it's really great. And I love knowing that I'm going to be well taken care of because most people there care wholeheartedly about what's going on.
Yeah.
In every little detail. Yeah.
Awesome. Now tell me about your Disney story. Like you were saying that you went down a lot to your grandparents who snowbirded down there.
Yeah.
So you obviously went to the parks a lot. Like what else is it? Like how else did Disney affect your life?
Well, in huge ways. So I, for most of my life, I had been in the kind of restaurant and hospitality industry. So from an industry standpoint, they were super appealing as, like a high-end, goal setting company. So yeah, as a kid, spent lots of time going down to Florida and seeing, and obviously Disney movies and Disney culture, which most of the world gets exposed to at this point. And then, yeah, I just from that and having gone so often, when it came time to get married, my wife and I decided to get married there at the wedding pavilion. So that was great. We went down with all of our friends and family, and while I was there on my wedding, we ate at Le Cellier. And as I was waiting to get sat, I literally walked up to the host stand and I was like, how do you get a job here? And they told me about Yummy Jobs and all that stuff. So literally on my honeymoon, I was like on my laptop applying at Yummy Jobs.
That's awesome.
To go work down there, which I did for a year, and that's where we met and spent lots of time working at Le Cellier, and great memories of that, and have since gone back every year or two with my family. And as my family grows and kids, like all that fun stuff, we got to spend like a good 4 or 5 months there at the beginning of quarantine and COVID and all that stuff this year, because my wife was working there for a little bit. So we've spent lots of time down there in kind of a bunch of different ways.
That's awesome. Very cool. So you mentioned that we both worked at Le Cellier, which meant that you were away from your wife, but she did manage to come down and visit you quite a bit, and you guys stayed in hotels when she came down. So what is your favorite Disney resort and why?
Oh, man. There's, lots of things to consider when you're considering a Disney resort, not the least of which is how thick your wallet is.
That's very true.
Right? And so I would say there's something at every resort for everybody, and it all comes down to, what you want. Obviously, being at the Grand Floridian and being like a big spectacle and being on the monorail line and all those things are fun, but not all of us are CEOs. And so like, we can't all afford to stay there on a regular basis. If there was no money to consider, whatever, the place I think I would stay is actually Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Nice.
Which for most people I don't think would be the first choice, because if I live on the East Coast, so I drive and I have my own car, and so the satellite nature of that resort doesn't really bother me. But I love animals and stuff like that, and so like being on the Serengeti and seeing the animals and stuff like that, that's more appealing to me. Where for most people, they may want to be where it's not like there's a bus that you have to take everywhere and you can't walk to anywhere and things like that. That's, to me, is a great place. But really, there's no bad resorts, and money is a factor for a lot of people, and so like even the all-star resorts are awesome too. So yeah. Also, I have to give a shout out for my wife's birthday when she came to visit while we were working there. I stayed at the cabins at Fort Wilderness.
Oh yeah.
And those are really cool because it's like a little cottage that you have like for yourself.
Yeah. Did you ever stay at the Treehouse Villas?
No.
Oh, those ones are really cool too.
Again, I believe it, but again, dollars.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But the good thing about those, is that they are a bit more central, right? Like you're not super far from downtown Disney. The parks are, it is a lot more central. But yes, like it would be a really cool place to stay just because, again, I think that some of the best Disney resorts aren't just about theme, but about like unique experience, right? Like the Star Wars one that's coming will be super themed, but also like a super unique experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Now that you have kids in your family, do you usually tend to stay at value resorts, or what do you guys usually tend to do when you go down there?
It really depends.
Yeah.
We, jack of all trades kind of thing, like whatever works for us. Like some of my family has like some other chain vacation clubs, so we'll stay there. We'll do Airbnb, we'll do All-Star. It really depends on what our mood is, how long we're going to be down there.
Yeah.
And we don't tend to travel just as like our nucleus of four, like, me and the kids and the wife.
Yeah.
So we often like include others in what's going on.
Yeah.
My dad's a huge fan of staying at Port Orleans. That's his like place that he likes to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of go in with an open mind, and much like yourself, having been able to spend so much time there.
Yeah.
I try not to let my opinion be overly weighted because it's like I've kind of have a good concept of everything. So whatever people feel like doing, I'm happy to just hop on board with them.
Very cool. All right. So we are blue sky thinking today about Disney resorts. If you were to blue sky think a Disney resort featuring characters from the MCU, what characters would you use? How would you theme the resort essentially?
I feel like much like they're doing with the Star Wars resort that they're doing, the kind of best way to do it would make it like an all immersive kind of experience, like force short stays on people.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to do that would be actually just to build like the Avengers campus from the movies, right? Like, or like, the version of Star Tower or whatever it is, like something that is the bones of something, but that can be kind of reimagined as the Marvel universe gets reimagined, right? Like if they had built it 5 years ago, would be like super Iron Man focused.
Yeah.
And moving forward, that might still be something they focus on, but there might be like a whole new team of like primary, Avengers that they want to focus on. And so having like a structure where you can change the characters and the theming of what specifically is going on, I think would be important for a franchise that is continuously evolving.
That's fair.
Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that would be important. And then you can have like little areas of stuff that you think is going to forever be important, right? Like Spider-Man is going to be something that people care about probably forever, and I think having bones that you can kind of change the clothes on, then that's probably the best way to go. I
like that. Because I was thinking about this as well. I thought, there's two ways that you could go about it. Number one is the way that you were talking about with like that full immersive experience, having you go in for a short stay and experience that Marvel Cinematic Universe, and like how they're supposedly doing with the Star Wars hotel, like have you do like Avenger missions and you essentially become an Avenger or so on. And like you get costumes and things like that, and like you go around the hotel doing missions. I think that is definitely one way to go, and I really like that idea. I like the idea of like theming the rooms, like, or even theming the resort to like the Avenger campus. It's a really good idea. I also thought that you could almost take it and do it as a value resort so
Yeah.
people could experience it for longer periods of time. So
Yeah.
what I was thinking was like an art of animation type thing, where you have different themes of different aspects of of the
Buildings.
universe.
Yeah.
The one downfall of that, which I really liked from your point, was it's not interchangeable, right?
Yeah.
You were saying that if you did that immersive thing, you could essentially kind of like take out characters and put in new characters that come out throughout time,
Right.
or have more focus on certain characters. Whereas if you do like an art of animation type resort, it's going to be like an Iron Man section and an Avengers section and a Spider-Man
or like
section.
Asgard, or like
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
But like, 10, 15 years from now, is Thor as relevant
Yeah,
as, whereas like art of animation, I think by the time they built it, it was like the things they chose to highlight are like, these are clearly timeless classics now.
yeah,
Like these movies have existed for 20 years and are still very popular, and everyone knows who the Lion King is. And exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I really liked your aspect of that, of being able to have it morph into different things throughout time. I really like that. What kind of features would you put inside the resort?
Oh, well, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff they're going to do with Star Wars, which is basically like, like a box where it's like, when you look out into space and stuff like that. I think a lot of those things, like really, truly immersive, travel kind of sensations, I would definitely do, right? Like, it's like maybe there's a way that you go on an adventure and then it feels like you've gone with Guardians of the Galaxy to a different world for half a day, like whatever it is. I think those kind of fully immersive experiences are what people are gonna want to look for more and more, where it's not just a ride and then I go out into the Florida heat and a ride. It's like, no, for this half day, we're, none of that matters, and all of our food is this, and all of our experiences are this, and like there isn't a gift shop every 50 feet, and like I can forget about the world for, right, because even Rise of the Resistance, I don't know if you've been able to ride that ride.
Not yet.
But like, it's a good, like, whether the ride takes a long time or not, like I would say the whole experience of it is a good like half an hour from the time that you would kind of be out of the queue. It's like a half an hour to 45 minutes of like, now we're going to this and now there's loading. Like everything is themed to be like a full experience, not just a ride. And so as they do that more and more, they set the bar higher and higher, and people's expectations will change. It's like, that compared to the teacups is like, not that I want to get rid of the teacups, but it's like, I'm staring at the teacups, I get on the teacups, I get off the teacups, right? Like that, this is not the same thing. Yeah.
I like that. The other cool idea that I just had actually was you could do that Star Wars-esque type resort, but if you themed it like the Shield Helijet carrier thing, that would be really cool. And then you could have all of the rooms like as like bunks for the different
well, like even if they wanted to go very much in the same model of Star Wars, you would like check in, get on one of the helijets, and then go into like the Shield, the huge like, sorry, you'd get in like a Quinjet to go to the big helijet, and then you just be in that for 2 days, right? Like you don't leave, you don't do anything, and then from that maybe you get in things and go do missions and come back, but you've never like left the building.
I think that would be really cool.
Absolutely.
What other things would you like to see? Like, I'm thinking like, you obviously said like you don't have a gift shop every 50 feet, but there has to be a gift shop in the hotel.
Absolutely.
Like, you have to have a gift shop. So like, what would you theme that after? Would you theme it after a certain movie, or would you theme it after a character, or how would you go about that?
It depends how deep you go into certain themes. I think the best theme for a gift shop would be, again, staying a bit with Guardians, it would be like the Collector, right? Because like you go see the Collector, and then there's literally anything you want to put in there makes sense because it's all themed to that.
have like a Howard the Duck in the ceiling.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. I
You
love
know?
that idea.
Yeah.
What about restaurant?
Yeah, that's kind of all over the place. I mean, you really gotta, again, maybe that's something where make it so that you can change it up a bit more, well, not seasonally, but like,
Every
so let's
few
say
years.
phase-wise in the
Yeah.
MCU, like every phase you could do something different.
Yeah.
But I think, again, what makes a bit of sense, depending on the kind of resort, is like you probably need like a buffeteria at minimum because it's more of a resort, right? So
Yeah.
where people can.
Absolutely.
And if you go campus-wise, then it can very much just be like a campus where it's like, people are coming and going while they're working.
Yeah.
And so from there, you could just theme things like based on the fact that like we have some Asgardians here and this is what they would eat, and we have, like
Yeah.
you could have different meals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and short of that, I mean, it depends how deeply you want to go with the character, right? Like you could do like a whole Norse like buffet thing like with Thor.
Mm-hmm.
You could, but I mean, they kind of anyway, and you don't want to infringe kind of on what's already going on in some of the parks, right? Like, so do you want to like dive deep into like a Norwegian kind of god if you have a Norway pavilion doing stuff already?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's fair. I don't know why. I think if my memory serves me right, they're for the Avengers campus that they're doing in California Adventure. They're doing a PIM particle restaurant type thing where
like
the
huge
food is
food,
huge.
small food.
Yeah.
I think
that
I heard
was
that.
like the first thing that I thought of for this restaurant
For
would
sure.
be like just have like giant food everywhere and you shrunk down to the size of Ant-Man kind of thing. I do think, like you said, the buffeteria is kind of the best way to go about it. I do like the idea of theming the food towards different characters as well.
Yeah.
So, like you said, like if you wanted to have Norwegian type dishes, you could have that themed for Thor. You can have, shawarma for the Avengers kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Or like the Spider-Man sandwich place, right? Like he wants to squish really,
yeah. I think all of those would be a really fun addition towards this Avengers campus for sure.
Absolutely.
When you go into a Disney resort and you walk into the room, there are all of these little hidden gems, little kind of like Easter egg type things that you always see, like whether it's the artwork on the wall or there's like a Mickey head like scribbled onto the bed frame or something like that. What kind of things would you like to see in an Avengers type room?
I think what would be cool, again, if it was like staying with the theme of it being like Avengers Campus, is if like the different rooms were themed as if like different Avengers were away and you were staying in their living quarters.
Okay.
Right? So like this is Thor's room and all of his stuff. And so there's like, different things on the wall or stuff where like this is where Tony Stark was and all of his like gadgets or stuff and things that he's working on, right?
Yeah.
And then that way, a bit like Art of Animation where it's like, the theme of the whole thing, but then there are different zones.
Yeah.
It could be like, this is where Hawkeye was, or this is where, right? And so every room has a bit of a different vibe, or every floor, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so, because you're not going to see, I mean, there probably still will be a hidden Mickey, but it won't be, Mickey things. It'll be, you dive deeper into the theme of, like maybe this was, Groot's room, and it's that kind of a theme to it, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Just, there's thousands of Marvel characters, not many that they've touched yet, but like they're never going to run out of ideas.
Yeah. Maybe going back away from this, thinking of like an immersive Avengers campus and going more back towards the Art of Animation type theme.
Yeah.
There are 3 pools at the Art of Animation Resort. There's the Cars pool, the Finding Nemo pool, and the Little Mermaid pool.
Yep.
Let's just say for the main pool, which would be like the Finding Nemo pool, how would you theme that for an Avengers type?
Again, I think so much of it depends on where the MCU is going, right? Like, I would think you might see Namor soon, which is like their Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you go there, that makes sense.
Okay.
Right?
What about based on what's out now?
Yeah, I think something like that, you'd got to stick with just the original 6, right?
Yeah.
Thinking of timelessness and what the franchise was built on.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe theme it more like Stark Tower kind of a situation where it's like that the main floor of Stark Tower from like the very first Avengers movie, like maybe there was a pool out on that balcony and the rest of it, and there's the bar where he sipping his drink and putting his bracelets back on and that kind of stuff. Like
I envision like the water slide being like the top of Stark Tower, like that's like the water slide. That would be cool.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I was thinking, if you did like this art of animation thing, you could have like a villains themed area. So
Absolutely.
you could have like a Loki building and a Thanos building, whatever. I think having like
some of the Marvel bad guys have been, I don't think they're going to fall under timeless. Some of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think having like an Infinity Gauntlet pool would be kind of cool.
Absolutely.
Like in the shape of a fist. I think that'd be fun. All right. Well, Paul, I really appreciate you coming onto the show today. I loved talking about our Marvel themed ideas, and I definitely have some work ahead of me to try and build pictures to go along with it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh man, no worries. My pleasure.
I'm hoping that we'll be able to get you back and have some more talks about Disney resorts or anything else.
Sounds good, man. Thanks a bunch.
All right, thank you. Thanks again, Paul, for coming on to the show. Now it's time to hear from you. Shelby mentioned that she would like to have pictures of Chris Evans in the hotel room. She has a bit of a crush, as do most other red-blooded women around the world. Shelby, I think that if this were themed as a value resort, this is absolutely doable. Not only could you have Cap hanging up in your room, but you could also have other characters like Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and so on and so forth. Now, if you were to theme it like how Paul and I were maybe suggesting, instead of a value resort and have it be a more immersive resort, you could have pictures of loved ones of the characters whose room you're staying in. So for instance, if you're staying in Cap's room, instead of having him have a picture of himself, he would then have a picture of Peggy Carter. In Tony Stark's room, maybe he has a picture of Pepper Potts, or if it's a little bit later in the MCU timeline, you could have a picture of Pepper and Morgan. And even though nothing has officially happened between them, maybe in Bruce Banner's room, there's a picture of Natalie Romanoff, and in Romanoff's room, there's a picture of Banner. Never know. Now, Sabrina thought that having advanced tech in the rooms is a must. She suggested having a smart magic mirror. It could show local weather, time, date, and maybe each room could have an AI assistant like Jarvis, Friday, or even Edith from Spider-Man. Sabrina, I think that the idea of this is absolutely brilliant. I love the idea of the AI assistant. You could almost have it so that when you check in, your name is already programmed into the room. And when you arrive, maybe Jarvis or Friday could say, "Welcome home," insert your name here. You could use your AI assistant like Jarvis to make dining reservations and say, "Hey Jarvis, can you make me a dining reservation at Beer Garden Restaurant in Epcot at 8 o'clock? It could almost be like having the My Disney Experience app, but also mixed in with having your own personal concierge. I think that would be a lot of fun. And as for the tech in the room, I think this is an absolutely brilliant idea. I think that it's almost an absolute must for a Marvel hotel, whether it's a value resort or the themed campus like we were talking about. If you did have a smart mirror, I love the idea of it telling you things like the date and everything like that. Why not go a step further and have it have your daily schedule in it? It could be linked to your My Disney Experience app, and it could show you what fast passes you have for that day, what dining reservations you have. I think this is a great idea, and it's not that far-fetched, because I am a DVC owner, and there was one time when I did tour the DVC Villa Suite mock-up at the Saratoga Springs Resort, but it was a mock-up for the villas at the Grand Floridian. And one really cool feature that they had in that villa mock-up was a TV inside the mirror, and it was in the bathroom, excuse me. So when you're having a bath or a soak, you could be watching TV in the mirror and not have to worry about bringing in an iPad or anything like that. I think, like I said, the technology is not that different. You could easily code it so you have an LED display behind the mirror that'll show like the time and the dates and everything like that. So Sabrina, I absolutely love this idea. Thank you so much for submitting it. And Disney, you should get on this because it's going to help people. Now, if you do have any ideas based on today's or an upcoming show, if you do have any ideas for today's show or any ideas or topics for a future episode, please do not hesitate and email me at theblueskylounge@gmail.com. We are also on most social media platforms by searching the Blue Sky Lounge. And if you do like the show, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel and make sure to leave us a comment in Apple Podcasts. Also, it doesn't hurt to share it with a friend. Let them know that you're listening. We like to expand our audience base and see what people think and what ideas they might have. They might be doing some blue sky thinking as well. Now, please note that this podcast is not affiliated with Disney in any way. It is a fan-run show with fan ideas and artwork that is in no way any true representation of what may or may not happen with Disney in the future. Now, thank you so much for taking the time out of your week to come join us here in the Blue Sky Lounge. And just remember to think, dream, believe, and dare yourself to use your imagination. Who knows what kind of blue sky thinking you can come up with from your armchair. Thanks.